Hey guys, it's me, Jack, and I'm back with another review. Today I will be continuing my reviews of the Indiana Jones movies. I should point out that there is a possibility that I won't be able to get all of these reviews out before the new Indiana Jones film comes out. But one way or another, I will get them out. With that said, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. After the success of Raiders, Lucas and Spielberg decided to go in an entirely different direction with its sequel, going much darker in tone. Despite being a hit at the box office, the film was not very well received by critics or audiences. Part of it was due to its extremely dark tone and disturbing violence. Steven Spielberg himself is one of the film's biggest detractors, calling it his least favorite of the series. Over the years, though, the film has garnered more praise, and is easily the most divisive Indiana Jones movie. Some love it, others hate it. Where do I stand? Well, let's find out. In this film, Indiana Jones crash lands in India, and goes on a quest to get back a magical stone that was stolen from one of the villages, as well as the children of that village who have been enslaved by an evil cult known as the Thuggee. Right off the bat, I really love what they do with Indiana Jones's character in this film. He's a little bit more of an anti-hero here than he was in the first movie. At the beginning of the movie, he's dealing with a bunch of criminals, giving them an artifact in exchange for a diamond. He's a bit more of a mercenary here. And it does make sense in a way because this film is actually a prequel to Raiders. It takes place 1 year before. If you didn't read the title card at the beginning, though, you wouldn't really know that. When he is asked by the villagers to get the stone, his initial intention is keeping it for himself and giving it to a museum in exchange for a large amount of money. Fortune and glory, as he says. However, he eventually comes to realize the true power of the stone and how important it is to these people. And in the end, he lets them keep it. Another big part of his character in this movie is his relationship with Short Round, played by Ke Quan, who recently has become very famous with his Oscar-winning performance in Everything Everywhere All at Once. This was his first movie he ever did, and I have to say, he does a great job. I know some people find his character to be annoying, but I love him. He feels like a real friend to Indy. He teases him and makes fun of him, but deep down he truly does respect him. I love the little touches like in this scene, where Short Round puts his hands into the same position as Indy, while wearing Indy's hat. Or when the two of them are beating up bad guys at the same time. Their relationship is really the heart and soul of the movie. I mean, I love when Indy gets brainwashed and actually turns evil for a while. He's practically like a zombie. And Harrison Ford is a little bit creepy here. And in the end, it's Short Round who is the one who brings him back to the light. The moment where he tells Indy that he loves him, that really hits me in the feels. This film also has easily my favorite villain of the Indiana Jones franchise, Mola Ram. While he isn't as complex as Belloc, he is entertaining as all hell. I've heard some people complain about the fact that you don't meet him until halfway through the movie, but the thing is, one of the major influences of the Indiana Jones movies are the James Bond movies, and in several of those movies you don't meet the villain until halfway through. Sometimes you don't even meet them until the very end. Throughout the first act, you know that there's some sort of evil behind all of this, and you want to know who. And then when you finally meet him, he does not disappoint. When he comes out and the fire just rises up in front of his face, and he gives that sinister grin, you know that this man is the spawn of the devil. He wears that freaky hat with horns on it and a shrunken head. And let me tell you, the shot of him walking up towards the man who he is about to kill, at first all you can see are the horns and the shrunken head moving towards him, and then his face just comes into view. And if that isn't freaky enough for you, he literally rips the man's heart out, before having him cast into a fiery pit as the man's heart lights on fire at the same time as his body does. And throughout all of it, he just cackles like a hyena. Or how about the part where he tries to get Indy to drink the blood of the Kali, and Indy spits it in his face, and he is covered in blood like a vampire. The actor that plays him is perfectly cast. He has such a strong and intimidating face. He even has some funny moments, but none of them undermine him as a villain. Like, I love this sick burn that he gives Indy in the climax.
You want the stones? Let him go! Let her go! Drop them, Dr. Jones! They will be found! You won't!
Another reason why he stands out is that he is the only main villain in the franchise who actually fights Indiana Jones and almost defeats him. He almost pulls his heart out. I also love the moment right after this where he literally throws one of his men at Indy with the intention of hitting him. And even though Indy moves out of the way, he still smiles as he watches one of his loyal followers plummet to his death. That is a sick man. As expected, the film has some amazing action. The opening sequence in the nightclub is a great way to start the film. You get to see Indiana Jones wearing a tuxedo very similar to that of James Bond. We also get to see the first of many great death scenes in this movie, with him murdering a gangster with a shish kebab. Now that's what I call killing someone in style. And throughout all of it, Indy is trying to get the antidote, seeing how he has just been poisoned. I will say, though, there isn't much action again for quite some time. The film saves most of the rest of the action for the end. In fact, the whole final chunk of this movie is practically nothing but action. I will admit, I do prefer the way that Raiders was structured more. The action in that film was more spaced out. Here, for a good portion of the movie, there isn't really much action, outside of a little fight between Indy and a thuggy assassin. That being said, when we do get back to the action, it is amazing. Indy has this fight with a thuggy slave driver, and again, the scene has multiple things going on. It isn't just two guys punching each other. They're fighting on this rock-crushing machine, and if they aren't careful, they'll be crushed as well. Besides that, though, we also have the Maharaja stabbing a voodoo doll of Indy, causing him to lose the fight, and so Short Round has to defeat him. These Indiana Jones movies are brilliant at doing multiple things at the same time in their action scenes, while still not confusing the audience. Of course, no one can talk about this movie without talking about the incredible minecart chase, using some truly spectacular miniature work. This sequence is divided into different sections. You have them trying to escape the first group of thuggies, and then them fighting the second group. They have a tug of war over Short Round, while driving over a pool of lava. Once those thuggies are defeated, you think it's over. But no, it's just beginning. They try to stop their car, but the brake, well, breaks. And so Indy has to stop it himself. He manages to stop it, only for them to realize that the tunnels have been flooded, and so then they have to escape from the water. Once they get out, they think that they're safe, but oh no, there's thuggies waiting for them. And this all leads up to the climax on the bridge. It's non-stop thrills, and I love it. I mean, just this moment here, where Indy swings on a rope, knocking down a thuggy in the process, while the other thuggies are firing at him, and just barely managing to land in the minecar with the others. That moment alone is worth the price of admission. The film is wonderfully made. It has easily my favorite set pieces of the entire franchise. The inside of Pancott Palace is beautiful, and a great contrast to how dark it is underneath. The Temple of Doom itself looks like you're in hell. The thuggies are gathered next to a giant fiery pit, with an incredible statue of their god, the Kali. I also love the dinner sequence. Again, this is a scene that does multiple things at the same time. We get some exposition on the thuggy cult, and we also get some pretty funny reactions to the strange food that they eat there. Eyeball soup, bugs, monkey brains. I know some people complain about this being sort of offensive towards Indian people, but I don't really see that. It's more a way of showing that these specific people are off. They are not exactly normal. I also have to say that the soundtrack for this film is even better than the one for Raiders, in my opinion. John Williams really outdid himself here. Both Short Round and Willie's music themes are great, but the absolute best piece of music in this film, and in my opinion in the entire franchise, is the Thuggy chant. It's an extremely intense piece of music that starts off incredibly slow and booming, but by the end becomes fast and chaotic, and it does an amazing job of immersing you into the darkness and the sick nature of what these people do. So yeah, there is a lot to love about this movie. It sounds like it would be just as good as Raiders, right? Well, that would be the case, were it not for the character of Willie Scott. Willie has been labeled the Jar Jar Binks of Indiana Jones, and for good reason. She is obnoxious. Every moment in the film, she's either saying a dumb, unfunny line, or screaming so loudly that it'll make your ears bleed. I get what they were going for here. She's the fish out of water. She's used to being a star and being treated like a queen, and now she's out in the wild having to survive. But I'm sorry, you don't need to make her this annoying, or dumb. And it's such a disappointment after the first movie gave us such a strong and fun female character in Marion. I really don't get what Indy sees in her. I mean, sure, she's pretty, but that's about it. To be fair, she does get better near the end of the movie, and she even punches a Thuggy. That's nice. But that doesn't really make up for the fact that she is just so annoying for most of the film. Honestly, I can understand why her character alone ruins the movie for some people. For me, she just holds it back. There's also the character of Chatter Lal, who's just kind of a weird character. They meet him, and he seems like a nice enough guy, but then later it's implied that there's something else going on with him, and then suddenly later we just see him in the Thuggy cult, and I guess he's one of them. It's really jarring, and it's not like they put any emphasis on him being there. It's not really a reveal. The first few times I watched the movie, I didn't even realize that was the same guy from before. It would have worked better if he had revealed himself to Indy earlier when they were forcing him to drink the blood, or something like that. There's also some other things, like this stupid moment at the beginning, where this friend of Indy's gets shot, but he doesn't realize that he's been shot until he sees the blood on him. Like, I think we would all know when we've been shot. We'd be in agonizing pain. Also, the fact that this movie is a prequel does make a few moments a bit strange. Like this moment here where Indy comes across two Thuggies and tries to shoot them with his gun, only to realize he doesn't have it. Now obviously this is supposed to be a reference to the swordsman scene in Raiders, but because this movie takes place a year before that movie, it does make this moment a little odd. In the end, Temple of Doom does have some problems. But for me, the good stuff is just way too good for me to call this anything but, well, a good movie. It's really a shame because had the character of Willie Scott been stronger, I would have no hesitation to call this movie just as good as Raiders. But as is, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom gets an 8 out of 10. Join me next time for my review of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.